The first step in downsizing is the most important, and unfortunately, it's the one that's most overlooked. Hi, I'm Chuck Vosberg from Next Home Gulf to Bay. My wife Pat and I specialize in people who are downsizing. So, the first thing is when you're thinking about downsizing, is why do you want to downsize? And what is that next step in your life going to look like? What would your lifestyle be like? What would be the best life that you could possibly have? Because there's so many different reasons for moving. It could be that maybe your kids have moved away and the house is just big and you don't need all that anymore. Or maybe it's kind of getting to be a hassle to maintain everything. Or perhaps you've retired and you've got a lot more time on your hands where you could be doing something else. Or perhaps your interests have changed. There's just so many different reasons why you might want to move. But it's so important that we determine whether or not you should move, because it may or may not be in your best interest. So, Pat and I do what's called a feasibility study. And this is where we sit down with you and we determine whether or not it's in your best interest to move at all. And if so, what the plan of action is going to be. So step number one is to get clear on what your lifestyle is going to look like when you move. What is it that's going to make your life the very best it can be? Once we're clear on that we know where we're headed with all of this, then it's time to figure out how to get there. And the first step in that is to do a financial analysis. And this is probably the most important part of the feasibility study and the one that gives people the most concern. The first thing is we have to figure out how much money can we expect to get out of the sale of that house. And people often forget that, well, the purchase price is one thing, but there's always taxes and fees and all kinds of other expenses. It's how much money is going to end up in your bank account is what really matters. So that's the first thing we need to do, is determine what that number is going to be, and then figure out, along with your other finances, if that's going to give you what you need to make your best life happen. Now, sometimes we have to figure stuff out. Sometimes it's just clear as can be what the best course of action is. But we need to know this, because if we just kind of launch into this without thinking everything through, it's going to cause stress. And stress is the last thing you want. The whole point of the whole thing is to reduce stress in your life. So we do this financial analysis and figure out whether or not you should move. Next, we decide if you're going to move, then, well, what's the plan of action going to be? I can tell you this, it's going to take a lot longer than you think, and there are a lot of little bumps along the way that you've never even thought of. Well, since Pat and I have done this so many times, we have seen all these potholes in the road, and we can help you navigate that. So we can lay out a plan of action for what we're going to do with the property you have now, how you're going to get to where you need to be, how you're going to find it, and sometimes that may not even be in your same city. So if it's somewhere else, we've got next homies all over the country that we know personally, and chances are we know somebody that we can introduce you to who can not only help you on the other side, but somebody that's going to work with us so the whole thing is seamless. Because when you're moving from one place to another, everything has to work together. And then there's another concern. Well, how is this going to affect the rest of the family? So we need to take that into account too, and make sure that everybody's on board, because the last thing you want is have unhappy family members who are talking in your ear and trying to tell you you're making a bad decision, and that causes stress. And like I said before, we want to have less stress, not more, out of all this. So we take all these things into consideration, and we make a plan, and then we work the plan one step at a time so that it's not stressful. We want to make this thing as smooth as it can be. Now, let me give you an example. We went and talked with one couple recently, and they wanted to move. The kids had moved out. The house was a little bit bigger than what they really needed. It wasn't a problem, but the thing that they were really concerned about was it was a 2-story house, and even though they were fine, they were in good health, they were concerned, as they get older, it might become difficult to navigate the house. So we sat down and talked about it. We went through our steps just like we do every time. But as we worked through it, it became clear that moving wasn't in their best interest at all. It would be better if they stayed where they are. And since Pat and I have construction backgrounds, we knew by looking at the house that by simply widening a couple of doorways and when the time comes, installing a lift that can easily move them up and down the stairs, their main bedroom was downstairs already, and they don't have to go upstairs a lot. So these minor changes could help them so they could age in place, they could stay in the house that they really loved, and it would suit their lifestyle. Their family was still nearby, and they really didn't need to downsize at all. You know, sometimes the houses that we don't sell are the ones that are the most rewarding, because if they did move, it would have been a bad financial move for them. And it would have made their retirement less enjoyable than it would have been for lack of money. So our motto is humans over houses. And that's one that that's a story I really like, even though we didn't really do anything for them except help them plan to stay where they are. But humans over houses, that's really what it's all about. We really like helping people. Pat and I have both been through this with our own families, and we know how stressful it can be for everybody involved. So we've really devoted ourselves to this and helping people who are going to downsize move on to that better lifestyle and do it with a good plan of action in place. So if you have any questions, let us know. We'll tell you anything you want to know. There's no strings attached. Like I said, we put humans over houses. So thanks for watching. I've got more videos on this topic. There's a whole lot of steps to this, and I hope you watch those as well. And we're here to help you. We're at your service if you need us. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.